Hello and welcome to the Ultimatum RHAPup. That's right, we are back because season 2 of the Ultimatum Marry or Move On, not to get it confused with the great season we just covered, the Ultimatum Queer Love. This is the Ultimatum Marry or Move On season 2 that we have here. So I'm Aysha, and for those that didn't know, I'm an ambitious woman, and I am here with another ambitious woman, Mary Kwiatkowski. Mary, how are you?
Aysha, I have something to tell you.
Oh, what is
Uh,
it?
I am pregnant with this podcast, and we've got a new podcast coming very soon, right around the corner. So I just hope you're okay with that and ready for it.
So should we leave this one so that we can cover the other one, or
Yeah, let's skip right ahead to the season 4 of Love Is Blind
after
after
the
the
altar?
altar.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Look, I even like doing a cursory Google search for the Ultimatum season 2 is so confusing
Mm-hmm.
because they've decided that the Ultimatum has two sub-series, Married or Move On, aka I don't know, the straight people season, and then the queer love seasons, which is fine. Except when they came out with the queer love season, a lot of people were calling that Ultimatum season 2. So now this feels to me like Ultimatum season 3, but it's actually season 2 of the original series. It's very confusing.
Exactly. It is very confusing. I'm it made finding any information about this season very difficult. Because they just didn't make it clear up front that, there are two subsections, two types of shows. But we're here to talk about it. For those of you who plan to watch it, this is all spoiler territory. So if you want to watch it, go watch episodes 1 through 4. That's what we'll be covering today. And so go back, watch it on Netflix, and then come back and listen to the podcast because we're going to be talking about everything that we saw, giving our reactions to everything that happened in the first 4 episodes. So Netflix did release 8 episodes, but we're just covering 4 here. Make sure you go subscribe to the Love at First Sight feed. You can find that at robhasawebsite.com/first sight feed. And that's where you can get all of our podcasts about the Ultimatum. You can get the Ultimatum Queer Love, where we covered it with Dr. Evie Jagoda. You could
Completely
get
different show.
completely different show, guys. The Ultimatum Marry and Move On season 1, Love is Blind season 2, 3, and 4.
Yes.
Wow.
Yep.
That's kind of wild.
I know.
Time flies. You can also get my coverage with Jason Reed over on A Perfect Match, where we talk about the show Married at First Sight, as well as our coverage with Kirsten McInnes talking about the show Perfect Match over on Netflix. So this is a one-stop shop for the unconventional dating, married/marriage shows on Rob Has a Podcast.
Oh boy. And when we first decided to do this podcast for episodes 1 through 4, I think we maybe thought that there would be a bit more meat on the bone for episodes 1 through 4. They had season 1 of the Ultimatum, and it was so ridiculous. It was like, okay, from the minds of Nick and Vanessa Lachey, the creative geniuses behind Love Is Blind, an even more absurd concept, and we're like, oh my gosh, gotta watch it, gotta see what this is about. And it was wild, and there was a lot going on in season 1. And then when they did the queer love season, we're like, oh, this is even better. Like,
This
they
is
built on
great.
this premise. There's so much here. There was so much good conversation. There was so much we were able to talk about the couples. Um, Ultimatum Married or Move On season 2, at least so far. Put it this way, it's not a great sign when one of your Netflix episodes is 34 minutes long.
Yeah, it's like this
Ooh.
episode is over already. What? I literally thought that I missed something. I was like, did I fall asleep? No, couldn't have. I'm taking notes.
Within the span of about 6 episode minutes, they flashed up on the screen, week 1 is over, and then week 2 is over. And I'm like, whoa. Nothing happened during that past week. Like, I assumed that when we were seeing some of these conversations in the trial marriage, it was going to be like, oh my gosh, it's our first date. And they're like, yeah, so this is like our 8th date. I'm like, whoa, what?
Yeah.
What
So
happened?
They're like, well, guys, they were talking about the same things they were talking about on the first date, so there's nothing we could do. But we do have our suspicions why it was kind of like this, so we'll get into that. But if you never heard of the ultimatum, here's a quick rundown. 5 pre-existing couples come onto this show, whether they've been together for 2 years or they've been together for 7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. They come onto this show. One of them has given the other an ultimatum saying, hey, I want to get married. If you're not ready for marriage, this is over. So they decide to go on a show called The Ultimatum, where they break up with their pre-existing partner. Then they date the other couples in the experiment. They pick a person. They experience a 3-week trial marriage with that new spouse. Then they go back to their original partner and spend another 3 weeks with them. Like, hey, maybe the grass wasn't greener, but now I'm experiencing back, let me see if I can work on those issues. Then at the end, they decide to either get engaged or break up or
get
walk
engaged
away.
and then break up.
Yeah.
As we've seen. Or get married instantly. We've seen it all.
Instantly. Yeah. So that's what we're dealing with here. For those of y'all out there that are like, what? I could never do that. That's probably 99% of people out there. But there are these choice 10 or now 15 couples that we've seen go through this experiment, which is wild. There are people out there who do it.
The other thing about this show is it seems like almost every season, there's a couple who decides once they get there, actually, you know what? Not going to participate in this process. This isn't for me for whatever reason. It's been different reasons, but
we're 2 for 2 now for the marry or move on.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens in a potential future season. I gotta say, like, no matter how this one ends up landing, like maybe episodes 5 through 10 or whatever end up being just very, very interesting and fun to cover. But regardless, they should definitely do another queer love season because
for sure.
That was giving a lot more.
That's because if they had to stack these up, obviously queer love is like superior. Like if I had to recommend, someone's like, okay, which season of Ultimatum should I watch?
Yeah.
That's a no-brainer. But even comparing season 1 and season 2, and I know, so Mary and I have only watched through episode 4 for those of y'all out there listening. I do hear it picks up in episode 5. Like there was a little bit more drama. So I'm looking forward to that. And then maybe it gets better through episode 8. I don't know. But these first 4 were a little bit of a tough watch.
Trying to see what my brother said, because he loves to watch these shows. And he just said, it's something. He said, are you watching? And I said, I'm watching the first 4 episodes. And he's like, yep, it's something. And then he just said, I think I like Love is Blind better. So that's where we're at on that one.
Fair. That's fair.
I'll have to get some of his takes later on, because he also really liked the queer love season. So we'll see.
Yeah, it really is the same target audience.
Yeah.
But we did get Nick and Vanessa Lachey back.
Yes, which I was wondering about, if that was going to be a staple. I guess they felt like, if there's the potential for babies, they're in.
That's it.
Okay, this is jumping ahead a little bit, but like, how happy do you think they were when they found out that there's already going to be a potential Ultimatum season 2 baby?
Imagine, so for those that didn't recognize, it was only Nick at the choice. And imagine Vanessa's like filming whatever, right? She gets the call. And Nick's like, you wouldn't believe it. One of the couples is pregnant. Vanessa's like, what? The one time I decide not to be there? The one time I'm busy? She probably petitioned for them, like, let's just move it up a day. One day, make it so that I can be available. If we need a film tonight at 2 a.m., please, I have to be there. And they're like, no, sorry, we got a schedule. We got to stick to it. She was probably pissed.
If there is a reunion show, and they bring Lisa and Brian back, how, like, 100% Vanessa's taking credit somehow for this baby.
Yes. She's like, I've been calling it. I've spent 2 years trying to conjure this up.
The first, Love is Blind baby. Love is Blind / Ultimatum baby. No, okay, stop. Actually, it's not, though.
Because we had, is it
Colby
Colleen and Matt?
I thought it was like Madison and Colby.
Colby.
Am I wrong?
Yes.
I don't remember her
of
name.
season. I'm thinking of Love is Blind.
Yeah, there was a Colleen and Matt. Different.
Okay.
Wait, do they have a kid?
No, they just moved in together though.
Oh, okay.
They finally got a house.
Little update for for the people following season 3 of Love is Blind.
I did see. Yeah, they after 2 years together, they finally are moving in.
All right,
into the house.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So overall, like, do we want to talk through maybe this cast a little bit?
Yeah. So let's get it started with our first couple. We have, let's see, we have Roxanne and Antonio. Yes. And if you aren't watching on the or if you are listening to the audio only, we are on YouTube. So the RHAP has a YouTube the RHAP has a podcast YouTube channel, and you can see the visuals here. Oh, we're pulling up the couples. We know it's early. You may forget some names. I'm forgetting names. I had to refer back to names so many times.
There was a point in episode, I don't know, 2 or 3, where someone mentions James, and I'm like, who's James? We haven't seen anything from James.
Yeah. For me, it was Alex.
It was
Alex. Could not place him. Just like, Alex.
Like, who is this?
Yeah. I was like, that's a new name.
Yeah.
So we have Antonio and Roxanne. Antonio's 30. Roxanne is 31. Yes. And their story seems to just be that she is so successful. She's so career focused, career driven. She uses the word ambitious a gajillion times in this first 4 episodes. And she just doesn't think that Antonio stacks up. She says he's never had a goal in his life. He's not focused on his career. And he's the one that gave her an ultimatum. Because he's like, look, if you don't want this, I'm out. Like, there's no, let's try to make it work. He was the one couple that said, if we are not getting engaged into this is it.
Yeah. I definitely feel like with them, there's a lot that we find out later that also factors in that they didn't say up front. He's going to later talk about how he spent several years just getting high all the time, just like looking for something that would make him feel anything, shutting himself off from the world. And we also find out that they had a bit of an on again, off again relationship. So I feel like that kind of answers some questions about their scenario, because with her being as career focused and successful as she is, it does make you feel like, well, why has she been with this guy for what they say dating 4 years? And I guess it makes a little more sense if, well, maybe there was some time when they weren't together in that.
Right. Yeah. It also just, it also seems like it seems like she just doesn't really like him. Like, it seems like he's that easy, like, okay, I just don't want to be single. So he's always there. He's not leaving. So I'm fine. But then everything she describes throughout these episodes is like not him, or not who she sees him as. She sees him as his occupation, whereas rather than, I don't think she truly sees him. And he seems like such a sweet guy. Like, he seems like so kind-hearted. Just wants to be seen. He's constantly afraid of messing up in front of her, and afraid that, like, he says the wrong thing, she'll leave. I'm like, you need someone who sees you and values you.
Yeah. And it's an interesting point, right? Of like, he is so worried about saying anything that could hurt their relationship, that could make her not like him. But he's not, I don't know, but he's not committed enough to do some of the things that it sounds like she wants him to do. Like, and it doesn't.
Like grabbing burgers and going for a walk after work.
Yeah, I think from her perspective, she's like, here's my really busy life with my career. here are the ways that you can help fit into that better.
Yes,
And then
exactly.
he says he'll do them, but he never does. It sounds like he gets into a pattern. And so it's a
Yeah.
little bit of, I look at him and I say, well, if you're so concerned with losing her, why aren't you doing some of those things? And I know a lot of that can be like, well, you're sort of put in this anxious bubble.
Hmm.
But yeah, we definitely see him open up a lot more when he's with other people. So definitely one to watch.
Yeah. When I saw this, I was just like, they're just on two different pages, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't think that the ultimatum is the experience where she's gonna finally value him and he's gonna finally like say like step up
Open up.
and do
Yeah.
those things. I mean, because like even just like her saying, why don't you say let's do these specific things? Like that's a specific ask that if he wanted to, he could do. But
Right.
which shows it's way bigger than that. It's
Right.
more so I don't want to just fit into your life, but I don't know how to communicate that without thinking that you're going to run away.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
so let's see. Okay. So what who was the next couple that you would like to um
Let's we
talk
sort of
about?
mentioned him briefly. Let's talk about Ryan and James.
Okay. Ryan and James. Oh, these two. So yes, okay. Ryan and James.
So Ryan and James, they are the high school sweethearts. They've been together since they were 16 years old. They're both, well, Ryan's 24 and James is 23. They've been dating for 7 years, but they have not lived together yet at this point. He's not sure that he feels like there is sort of one true love since they pretty much only dated each other. I'm sure maybe they had other relationship. I know that he had other relationships. When he was younger, but like as adults, they really haven't dated other people. And they talk a little bit about finances. When I look at them, they are a couple who, in some ways, does feel personal to myself in that I was 16 when I had my first boyfriend, and we dated for
Mhm.
7 years. I think ours was probably a lot more rocky than theirs, even. Like we had a lot more on again, off again, but it was the kind of thing where I think at the time, if someone was like, "Oh yeah, like how serious are you about marriage? Do you want to talk about these things?" I'd be like, "Yes, yes, so ready." And then looking back, I'm like, "Man, I was a baby." like, oh, you don't know anything. Not that everyone's like that. Plenty of people get together and have successful relationships when they're younger. But um, one thing we talked about a lot in the queer love season was the comparisons of amount of time that couples had been together and ages that they were over the seasons. So I got my stats again. In season 1 of Married or Move On, the average age of the participants was 25 years old, and the average time together was 2 years. In Queer Love, the average age was almost 32 years old, and the time together was closer to 3 years. And for this season, let's just say these two are breaking our stats a little bit, being together
Right.
for 7 years, because the average time together is 3.4 years, and the average age of the participants is 27.7. But that being said, almost everyone is 28 or above, 28 to 32. And then you just have a couple people, these two, and then one other person who is 20, 24 or younger. So there's definitely like a big, it's low lows and then a little more kind of average age.
Yeah. Yeah, I do remember, like, we got the intros. We're still getting to know people, right? And then there was a certain point that his age popped up. I said, he's 24. Oh my God. Like,
Yep.
I couldn't believe that. And so I will say my initial impression was that because we heard that he was in school for 5.5 years, so that played a factor in his willingness to wanting to settle down. But I just felt I was like, maybe he's just not that into her. And because it kept seeming like he was making up excuses why they weren't ready, and she's all in. Like there's nothing more that she needs to know that she wants to spend the rest of her life with him. And so I was like, maybe that's it. But then the more we learned about him, that it wasn't until someone else saw her value or was able to articulate how great she was that he's like, wait a second, what am I doing? Like, what do you mean? What are you doing? You've gone through this whole process to get on this show, and it isn't until this moment that you realize who is standing next to you.
I think that's kind of the point of the ultimatum. You know, at the beginning of the show, it always cracks me up when they give the opening speech about the studies have shown that ultimatums are not the best way to get someone to do what you want, but it can be the best way to find the answers you need very quickly. And, you know, they say the idea is like for some people, or for most people probably, all of the different excuses they have for why they're not ready for marriage when they've been in relationships for a long time would probably change if they were just with a person that they liked more and that they felt more compatible with. You know, I think you say things like, oh, well, I need to be more financially stable, or I'm not sure if we agree on this topic or whatever. And the answer to that is, well, if those are the reasons you're not together and they're probably things that aren't going to change, break up.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you still felt like you weren't financially stable, but you were with someone else, would that still be a factor? And, you know, I think we heard from maybe 3 or 4 people, the ultimatum givers, basically saying, I need my partner to experience what it would be like if they didn't have me around. Like, I need them to miss me. I need them to recognize what I do in the relationship. And I think James felt that instantly.
Yeah, he's like, oh.
Like when faced with legitimately, like it's sort of that jealousy thing. Like I think that there are people in relationships who feel like, oh, well, my partner has no one else to turn to. Like they're not going to
Mm-hmm.
find someone better than me. And then when they see someone that they actually feel like could be on par or better than them, who's interested in their partner, they're like, shoot, now there's actually competition.
Right.
And I think James was experiencing a little of that.
Yeah, like I think especially because, you know, we find out that he is the one that has cheated in this relationship. He knows that Ryan has always been super loyal. So he's gotten super complacent and is like, well, okay, I can do whatever, and she's always going to be there. There's no worries there. We don't even have to get married right now, and she's still here. So it's 7 years later. So, and I think he probably even thinks, even if we go through this and we don't get engaged, we're not breaking up. And so it was like reality hit him.
Well, and with them, you know, because of their age, like probably realistically, yes, they've been together for 7 years, but for most people nowadays, there's probably only been 2 or 3 of those years where they even really potentially could have been getting married, like
Mm-hmm.
seriously. I mean, you know, different people are different, but not a whole lot of people get married under the age of 20. So I don't know how long like this has been a thing that they've like, you know, has she only for the last year or 2 been seriously saying, hey, why aren't we married? I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, you know, or is he really feeling like it seems like the not living together also might be a boundary there. And I don't know if that also factors in with like she wants to live together but doesn't want to live together until they're married. You know, that could
Mm-hmm.
be part of it.
Yeah. It also is interesting that she seems super sweet. Like she seems like a sweetheart, and getting to know, just when we were learning just about this couple, I was like, oh, she's kind of quiet, you know? And then we see her in her trial marriage. I was like, she has this like bubbly personality. She's laughing. She's like having the time of her life. So I learned that James dims her light in their current state. And so
Mhm.
what I'm really hoping, if they do end up together at the end of this, he sees her value, and she's able to let down those walls, because there's something there that's preventing her from being the person she is in her trial marriage and in this relationship. So I really hope, like, if they are meant to be, she can get to that person rather than going back to the person she is currently, because I was like, these are two different two different Ryans.
Yeah, and I also hope that if he is having this discovery now, that it's not something that fades the
Yes,
second they get off the
exactly.
show. So,
Yeah. So that was our second couple. So our third couple that we have is one of the other young ones.
mhm.
So we have, let's see, we have Raya and Trey. So Trey is 29. Raya is, well, as of the show, right? Are on the show, Trey was 28 and Raya
Yeah.
was 24. They've been
Yes.
together for 2 years. Trey is the one who gave the ultimatum with them. And it seems as if there's just something lacking for her. She doesn't have that emotional connection to him. She just wants to go on dates. She was someone who I was like, I think she's like, you don't ever like, I want to be asked on a date. And I get that. You want to get romanced, right? But I think what she needs to understand is marriage is dating. Like marriage, you should be dating each other your entire marriage. Like that, like that's how one of the things you could do to keep things alive. But she's making it seem like he should be courting her constantly and in the same way as when they first start dating, where it was like, but marriage, you have that commitment, like you are going to be actively pursuing each other, yes, but it's not going to be in the same frame of mind as when you first started dating.
They're tricky because I it, for most of the conversations I see with Trey, I really like Trey. And so I'm
Mm-hmm.
wondering what is it that he's not giving to her? Is it just the romantic attraction? Is it a sexual thing? I don't know. That because she almost instantly on the show calls out other people as being people that she's like, "Ooh, they're making me feel hot. Like I want that." Like, okay. But I I wonder if it's being edited in a way to make it look more like that, and what she's really feeling like is more of a Antonio Roxanne kind of thing, where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we've been dating, but we don't do things together. There are no romantic gestures. To which I also say it needs to be both ways. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what are you doing also? But I've like to bring it back to me, I've been in an experience before where you're dating someone, you move in together, and there's a time where you are leaving each other cute notes. You are still planning things. You are still setting aside time to do things together, even with your work and etc. And then there was a point where it felt like from the other person, it fell off, and there was it felt like I didn't have a place in their life anymore. Like I was just their roommate or I was just their friend, is what it felt like. It
Mm-hmm.
didn't feel like they were putting in that effort anymore, where I felt like I was. So if that's more the case, then like I can understand where she's coming from. But if her perspective is more like I need you to give me flowers every day, and to make me feel like it's worth it. It's like there's a point where like marriage is a partnership that needs the romantic element, but there's a lot more that goes into that, and a lot more of that is probably things like quality time together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think another thing that contributes to like her view of marriage is like she said that she hasn't seen any examples of a successful marriage. And then on his
Mhm.
end, his parents have been married for 30 years. So it's like her view is probably what she sees in society, what she sees on TV or in movies. Like this is the way it's supposed to go. And like you're supposed to be planning all these romantic gestures. Like what about these dates I see on The Bachelor? Like where are those? Where's my where's my big romantic gesture, rather than it being a lot of small things along the way that just show how he feels about her. um so I don't know, I think they just need to reset expectations, and it's not that her expectations are too high. I think it's just the one thing that like really stood out to me was she said, "I'm wondering if my soulmate is out there." So like you've been with him, you are actively in a relationship asking about, I wonder if I'll ever meet the person I'm meant to be with.
I I think both of them, but definitely Raya are like they're on this show to find a new partner. Like if
Yes.
I've ever seen people on this show who are actively looking to switch, it would be them. Then again, I felt like we felt the same way about Madeline, who then
Mhm.
got married. So I don't know.
Yeah. Very, yeah. 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 I I just feel like, I mean, and I think that just boils down to the show. I mean, I think even if I think of Randall and Shanique, and they just got engaged. I guess again, because we saw them get engaged and they called it off, and it was he did this really cute proposal. He put it on TikTok, like how he planned for it and stuff. I used to think, okay, are they a good match? And now I'm like, no, they just really needed to learn how to understand each other to get on the same page. And I could be biased because I met them and they were really sweet. So like they
Asha's over
are
here rooting
meant
for
to
them. She's
be.
like, I know them. I know them. I know them more. Like you don't know them the way I do.
Right. Their love is one of a kind.
Yeah.
But it feels like a large majority of couples that go on this show are at the point where they need to break up. I think it's just like if you need to go on a show to test to see what it's like to be without your partner, it just feels like there are other conversations that can happen before that that could determine if y'all are really meant to be. But
yeah.
so that's almost, yeah, that's it. So one more couple before we get to the couple. So let's see, one more couple. So who is the next couple? Where are they? I told you I keep forgetting their names. Oh, here they are. So, Mary, tell us about Alex and Kat.
Yeah, Alex and Kat. Alex is 31 and Kat is 27 at the time of filming. They've been dating for 2 years. Kat has given the ultimatum, and I wrote down in terms of their core issue, Alex is busy, question mark. Like I'm there's more to it than that, but essentially with them, this is a state of two very opposite people. Kat is it seems like extremely supportive and sweet and caring, and Alex is until we get to the scene with his parents, I did not understand Alex at all. I was like, Alex seems kind of like an uncaring jerk. And that might be very strong, but I was like, and so much of this is from the editing. But Kat would ask him questions and he would not answer at all. Like he was just sitting there giving nothing. He was like just not it didn't seem to see any of the value in Kat.
And
He's not
he's like, or she's like, I'm so sure about us. He says, what makes you so sure?
Yeah, he turned around every question back on her. He keeps saying that he's logical and practical and that he can't express himself well. Those are not like mutually exclusive things. You can be both logical and practical and also find ways to express your feelings. And I feel like a lot of this is just like he's coming up with kind of bogus reasons like, oh, well, we're just so busy with all the trips we take and all the things we do that I wouldn't have time to propose. It's like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? Propose on the trip. So I don't know with them. I definitely need to see more when it comes to their trial marriage. But from what I've seen so far, it really feels like he's just not that into her kind of scenario. Like he's just looking for something else. I'm not sure. Like he almost gave zero reasons in this whole batch of episodes of why he likes her, like why they're together, what any of this is. And I don't know that she necessarily gave a ton either. So they're the two that I'm most confused why they're together. And I'm just going to need to see a lot of different things from them in order to figure out what potential they have. How do you feel, Aysha?
Yeah, I feel like it was like, yes, Alex, Kat, give us nothing, because they literally showed us nothing about them. We didn't even get a proper like, we've been together for this long, then da 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 da. I like had to go back to an article to find their names and make sure I was right on how long they've been together, and how old they were. It was just like, what is there not a real issue here? Is just they're just another couple out there who was willing to do the ultimatum? Because there isn't, like, if this whole show was Alex and Kat, imagine it would have been like 20-minute episode, or not even. We could get a 5-minute YouTube update, because I learned nothing about them. And and it's tough because I learned way more about them when they're in their trial marriages than
Yes.
them together. So I'm just
Yes.
like, what is the foundation here? What's the issue besides just not being a good match?
It's like they both, when they're in scenes together, they like suck the life out of each other because when they're with other people, we saw a lot more about them and a lot more about their personalities. And I have a lot more thoughts on them, but I want to save it for those scenes when
Mm-hmm.
we can get to it. But yeah, I'm not sure on these two. Like,
I'm just like,
hopefully we
what are
get
we
there.
missing? Maybe
Yeah,
there's something that's
something.
happened before that got them here and they just haven't covered it yet, but this can't be it.
Yeah.
And because even I imagine like we get to the trial marriage where they're back together, it's gonna be like week 1 over, week 2 over, week 3 over. Like what? Besides her really being into him and her being the one to give an ultimatum and him ready for marriage, just not with her.
I have to imagine that there's going to be some drama with them based on their experiences with other people. But
Mm-hmm.
we'll see, I
Yeah,
guess.
I never want to say because I always feel like it's when you say like settling, that's like devaluing the other person. That's like diminishing the other person. But I feel like well, in this case, I feel like they're both settling. I feel like he's settling because just like, oh, we've just been together this long, and she's here, we're into, and she's into it, and then she's settling for someone who isn't all about her.
Yeah, like I feel like there's definitely got to be people out there who recognize how, sweet and nice and fun she is. And
Then
it
that's
doesn't
the
feel like
trial
he's
marriages.
balancing it. Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll find out.
kinda,
Kinda,
yeah,
but we've also skipped through a lot of that already without getting a
yeah.
whole lot. So
Yeah.
we'll see. But yeah.
So
Um
last but certainly not least,
Certainly not
we're
least.
gonna go ahead and cover this couple in their entirety, because we got them in their entirety,
Yep.
and on this here 4 episodes. So the last couple we have here is Brian and Lisa. Where are they? I know they're here too. There we are. Um oh gosh. Okay. So Brian and Lisa. So we have the couple that was going to provide the drama. That's what I thought. I thought that as soon as we met them, I was like, "Oh, Lisa, she's not about to let anybody play with her. Brian is clearly not ready. So this is going to be great. This is going to be a great imbalance, and it's just going to be like, wow." And so Lisa is currently Lisa's 32, Brian is 29. So I guess the show, she was 31, he's 28. And they've been together for 2 years. She is the one that issued the ultimatum. But he's just not ready. He thinks that he needs to be financially secure. I think we heard multiple reasons from him.
They're not sure. He's not sure if he wants kids. And she
Yes.
is. Yeah, with them, I agree about the drama thing, especially since we see pretty much right off the bat that multiple other people are interested in either of them.
Mm-hmm.
So that was going to provide some intrigue about seeing who they ended up with. There's always a couple who always there's been 2 seasons. It seems
Always
like that
season after
there's
season after
season
season.
after season. There's got to be that couple where the one of the people, usually the person who makes the ultimatum, feels like because they made the ultimatum that the other person like needs to follow their vision for what this path is going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
So Lisa does not want Brian talking to, interested in other people. She has an idea of, okay, he must have at some point said, here are some qualities that I'm interested in seeing that you don't have. I want to be challenged differently, etc. And she goes, okay, so I'm expecting him to only talk to people who fit that criteria in my mind. And when seeing him talk to anyone else, she then does not approve, talks very heavily down about the people that he's interested in, which was not cool. And I think that there's a lot of truths that she's saying in she wants to be married before buying a house together, having kids. She has a biological time clock to deal with. She's 31 at the time that this is filming. And he feels like it's still too soon, too early, etc. She asks him if it is that he doesn't want to get married or if he just doesn't want to get married to her. And he kind of gives one of those non-answers. It's like, well, you know how much I like you. She, night one, before they even split up, we see her wake up in the middle of the night, crying, wanting to go home. But then
I was
I
like,
guess
what is happening? I was like, what is this? What is she crying for?
I don't know. And in the morning, it seems like either Brian or producers or somebody has gotten her back on track. She's ready to go back to, start doing the dating and everything. But she definitely is. She came on this show hoping, I guess, that instantly he would change his mind, agree to the ultimatum, agree to the marriage, and doesn't really seem to want to actually go through with this process.
Yeah, it was funny because I watched this with my brother Aston, and he was like, "Why does she act like someone said you better do this show or else?"
Yeah.
Like she was threatened to be on the show because at every turn she acted like how dare he want to go through this process? How dare he be involved in this process? And it was just like, girl, do you not know what you signed up for? If you don't want him doing this, then don't do the show. You are the one who issued the ultimatum. I'm so confused. Like, meaning you are the one who initiated bringing y'all onto the show. It's not like he brought y'all onto the show and was like, we're coming on because you want to get married. So we're going to try to do this. Okay. It was just and she seems so fed up with him in this whole situation, even blaming it on their 3-year age difference because she's older. But then he's of the mindset, oh, I feel like she's forcing me to want to get married now. So now he's just, I don't want to do what you were telling me to do. So it's just like, y'all are never going to meet in the middle because you both are just being petty about certain things and not handling this in a way that you would think a couple who is ready for marriage would be handling this.
So there's a lot of tension. There's a lot of moments. Do we want to go ahead and talk through the Raya stuff now with that? So Brian is interested in Raya. Raya's interested in Brian. They talk. They're dating each other.
Do.
Yeah, as the point of the show is supposed to be.
Right.
I would say it doesn't appear to be like I saw nothing wrong with the conversations that we saw. It was
they were sitting on 2 different couches. It's not like he was she was in his lap, nothing like that.
No. Just normal conversation. Lisa's not happy about this. She walks over and basically says, she's very territorial. She says she straight up says in Raya's presence, I don't like him talking to you. Like, I don't like this. I don't like the fact that he likes you. She ends up slamming her hand in his face. They go outside, I was really thrown off with the fact.
She muffed him. Just like, it's to the point where like, okay, I didn't quite slap you, but I put my hand on your face and pushed you, which is just so. The fact that she did that in front of all these people, I was like, oh, they're toxic. Because
I was actually a little surprised they didn't pull them from the show for that reason. Because usually they don't have they have a zero violence policy. And while I mean, I don't know how to classify violence because I wrote slap and then I'm like, it's not really a slap. Like, it wasn't, just kind of pressed her hand on his face. Yeah.
I think to answer that question, I think it's that they were the the couple that was supposed to carry this show. I
Mm-hmm.
really think that they were the ones that when they cast them, they're like, this is the couple that's going to
This is
give
the
us
drama.
the drama all around. We know it's gonna they're gonna not like who they're with. They're not gonna like. They're gonna have some jealousy along the way. They were thinking they were gold, right? And so I think even when that happened, even with all the disrespect from her to Raya, who Raya didn't deserve that at all. I mean, it would have been anybody if if he was talking to Ryan, she would have went in on Ryan, like dragging her through the dirt verbally. Um, it was just anybody who was looking at Brian was just the most awful human being, and she tried to hit every point about her, which was just like, I wonder where they are today. I think that'll be interesting to see on the reunion if they do come back. Um, her and Raya, if they have any type of relationship now, because that was just out of pocket. Uh,
Yeah.
I just feel like production was thinking, okay, this happened, but I don't know how do we handle that? And then I feel like that was they were maybe thinking like, okay, maybe they were thinking this is like a warning. Maybe if anything else transpires, and that's it. But I think they really wanted them to do this experiment.
Um, I was also thrown off by the fact that they left the club and it is bright daylight outside. So I mean
Oh yeah, it was not
that
a
was
night
not even
out.
like sun starting to set. Like that is like this was filmed in from September to November of 2022. In September, there's no way this was later than 3 p.m. Like
Yeah.
they're at this club. I
Yeah.
thought that was funny. But yeah, they have a very loud argument out in the parking lot where Lisa continually calls Raya a bitch, says he can't learn anything from her.
Yeah.
Basically implies that she's easy, keeps calling her the Hooters bitch because I think had said that she worked at Hooters. Like, it was a lot of really uncalled for hate towards Raya, who like did nothing wrong.
It's as if Lisa walked up on him. Lisa acted like she was supposed to be meeting Brian for a date. And they've been dating for 2 years, right? She's supposed to be meeting him or however long. And she walks up on him with another woman. Her reaction was that she caught him cheating on her and had no idea who this woman, or like had no idea the circumstances, and that it triggered her to like just go off on him and her, when it was just like Raya was catching strays unnecessarily. She did not deserve that whatsoever, which is why I was so, well, I guess she didn't know, or he didn't know, but I was so surprised that Trey was willing to go on a date even after all this, when they just resumed dates as if none of that had happened. When Trey was willing to date Lisa, even after all of that being said about Raya. But then I was like, okay, maybe he just didn't know because it was outside. But it was just like, girl, you knew the concept of the show. She acted as if the season 1 has not come out at that point.
Yeah, and I just have to believe that she just had it in her mind that she was going to enter this process and he was going to instantly realize her worth and then agree to marry her. Like there's not a whole lot else that I can really come to terms with to explain her behavior. Now,
Yeah.
but there's one other thing.
Mhm.
We do get another scene. So we get the scene of the picking. They're going to swap the couples, the choice, right? Like we mentioned before, no Vanessa Lachey for some reason. And Nick Lachey says, okay, you'll notice there's one couple missing. Brian and Lisa have decided to leave the show. Cliffhanger, end of episode, except let's be honest, nobody stopped watching then. We immediately started
Right.
watching the next episode.
I will say when he announced that, I was like, my jaw dropped because I didn't even recognize that they weren't sitting at the table. And so I was just like, wait a second, they aren't there. Where are they?
I didn't, because I just assumed, okay, they either were removed from the show or they decided not to participate and that was it.
Yeah.
But when they do a flashback scene basically of because Nick Lachey says that Lisa is pregnant, and so that she took a pregnancy test that morning, they say. So Lisa is going to tell Brian that she's pregnant. It's a rather sweet moment, I would say, overall. Like, you know, there's no running for the hills. Like, everything
Mhm.
seems, like relatively okay. Like, okay, this complicates things, but all right, I love you. Like, oh, there's a little bit of, cute talk among the two of them. I don't I don't know whether or not there were other scenes in between the screaming match to this one. I have to believe there probably were other scenes between the two of them, because either that or this is a common occurrence of like those types of arguments to acting like nothing happened, because it just seems
Absolutely.
so normal, like the conversation that they had.
She said, F you, F the ultimatum, F everything, and storms off. If that was the first time, he'd be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened. He's like, man, forget it. Goes back inside. This is another day in their relationship. There's no way this is the first time that type of like argument has happened. Because he wasn't shocked by any means that this was happening. And I do think it's so interesting we have from this couple, her saying like, um, like they're another reason for wanting to get married is so that they can be married before they have kids. So I'm like, this is going to make things really complicated if she's thinking now, like, okay, if we have a kid on the way, then we have 9 months that I want to get married before the baby comes. And so that's going to be, and he already feels pressured. Like, that's not going to change his feelings about it. So I'm really curious to get an update on them. I scoured their Instagrams. There's no evidence of either one of them on there. But obviously, because the show, we probably will get an update. I will say this threw a lot of it off because I actually walking into the choice, because I walked in with them. I was like, oh, this is great because these couples actually have options. Like Ryan had an option between Brian and James. Then even Trey had an option between no,
Trey had
Ryan,
an
yeah,
option between Lisa and whoever he
Ryan.
ended up with, Ryan. Yes.
Yeah. And so I was like, "Oh, I don't even know who they're going to pick. This is great." I was like, "I don't remember going into the choice in the previous two versions of this show where we don't know who they're going to pick." And then for them to be gone, I was like, "Oh, well, now everything is a given. We know who everybody's going to pick." I'm wondering, are we ever going to get a surprise element where somebody is actually choosing?
And I wonder if we're ever going to get an element where somebody picks someone and then they don't want to pick them back, and there's a argument or
Right.
discussion, right? Because that could happen. Yeah, like structurally, I don't know if they kind of already came into this thing saying, okay, everybody tell us your picks and let's make sure that they're all lined up, basically.
Yeah.
I don't know. In this season, we'll get to it, but we end up getting like just two couples swapping. Like that's it.
Yeah.
Like two pairs
It's
of swapped
like,
couples.
yay.
So we've got kind of, you know,
Right.
little triangles there. But um
And I also think that's a flaw of the show. Well, I don't know. It's the concept of the show, but you don't have options,
are you saying the concept is flawed?
right? No, never, never. But it's like they don't have options. My options are just over there. Like these, it's not this magical concept where they're compatible just with this other couple who's in a similar situation. I don't know. But I will say with Lisa and Brian, I do wish them the best. And I'm very much so looking forward to if we do get an update from them at the reunion, if there's going to be a reunion.
And not to be the traditionalist here, but if one of your main reasons for not getting married has to do with finances, you are now having a child together. So the structure and the support at this point, you're already going to need the finances. So maybe just factor that into your priorities when thinking about the child. But
They're
I
like,
don't know.
what?
We'll
Never.
see. We'll see. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
this doesn't change anything. And I'm like, I kind of feel like it should change some things, but okay.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So those are our 5 couples. We got them. So
We got them.
so with the dating, And even the night out, it was largely centered on Brian and Lisa. Nothing else stood out to me in the dates leading up to the choice, unless it did to you.
Not particularly. Like, it was almost like the people, the production team started filming the dates and realized, oh, okay, great. We've got all this drama with Brian and Lisa and the people that they want to date and all of this. So we're going to concentrate on that. Like, hey guys, like, don't even bother filming anyone else. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We've got our story. And then Brian and Lisa leave and they're like, oh shoot, we didn't show anything else. There were people who were like, yeah, I really, in the choices, they're like, I really loved my time when I got to talk to so and so. And I'm like, did you? We didn't see it. Like, I don't know you had a connection. Okay. All right. Whatever.
Yeah. So we did, yeah. So because of that, it was like we tripped our way to the choice, and then a huge storyline is off the show. And so we ended up getting Trey choosing Ryan, Raya choosing James, and vice versa. Kat and Antonio chose each other, and then Alex and Roxanne chose each other. So let's talk about we get into the trial marriage. So I'm thinking episode 5, we finish out the trial marriage and then switch or go back to your original partner. So Roxanne and Alex, it felt like they thrived on just being the same person, which we kind of get from 2 of the other couples as well, where they're like, we both are super ambitious. We both love our careers. We both are about the grind. And we both want marriage, just not with our current partners. So, hey, this is great. She loves the way he thinks.
Why haven't some of these couples just broken up and like found someone else? Like, you didn't need the show to tell you that there are other like ambitious people out there if that's what you're looking for. And I think maybe part of it is this idea where you're told, okay, opposites attract. So you think, okay, here's my qualities, here's what I'm bringing. I need someone who brings different things. But if you don't really like have an interest in people who bring those different qualities, and what you value and appreciate are people who have the same qualities as you, maybe look for that.
Yeah. I think maybe it's about figuring out if you want to date yourself or you want to date the opposite of you, which a lot of these couples seems like they just want to date themselves, because if they are truly enjoying the same person that they're with, then that's it. I feel like Roxanne and Alex, it was just that she was loving that he agreed with her mindset, and so that's what she was just like liking him more and more, and having these very open conversations about what they like about sex. And do you think this couple is going to do more than, I guess, are they going to explore things beyond what we typically see in the trial marriage?
I think if I was going to say if anyone does, maybe it would be them. But it's like we need a scene where we can see what agreements the original couples have made about the experience. What,
What will you allow?
Right. What bars are held, I guess. Like what's, because I think we found out, especially in the queer love season, that a lot of people had different boundaries, different things that they felt, and then some people had expressly said, this is what we're okay with, this is what we're not okay with. So I think I'd like to see that, because like when it comes to someone like Raya, I think that she maybe feels okay with doing certain level of things, and I'm not sure that I don't know what the conversation she had with Trey was about that. That would be something I'd like to know.
Maybe that should be a requirement. Like, we always get that last night of them together, force them to have a conversation about what's acceptable and what isn't, and show us that, because it makes these other conversations irrelevant during the trial marriage if we don't know what they agreed upon, because we don't know, is that person crossing a line or are they not with their original partner or their ex, as the show makes them call them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That throws me off. Just say like my previous partner.
Yeah, or just name them. They have a name.
And don't try to like when they're trying to be like, well, we're married now, aren't we? It's like, well, you're
Yeah.
not. You're in a like you're I mean, you're in a trial marriage. You're in a trial married scenario, but you're not married.
Yeah. You're my husband, right? Right now? So with Roxanne and Alex, I think a big scene for them was meeting his parents. And it seemed very much so like um if it seemed like his parents were learning a little bit more about him and what he desires, because his mom even recognized, like, wait a second, this is the first time I've wondered, like, is Kat like what you're like, is that is what you, I guess, how did she phrase it? She was like, is there something missing with Kat in order to move forward? And she's like, she had never thought that before until now seeing him with Roxanne.
So, okay, this is what I want to talk about with the parents. I like that his parents are supportive of him and his relationship. I like that they say that they would be happy with him being with pretty much anybody. I like that they seem to like Roxanne and see Roxanne's values. What I also feel like is that there is this, because his parents both also were entrepreneurs and had been in business together, and that seems to be a key part of their relationship. It does look like they value whatever Kat is bringing to the table less than they would value those types of things. And I feel like it's like sometimes you can read between the lines and look and think, is the fact that maybe his parents maybe aren't as supportive about his relationship with Kat part of what's holding them back?
Mm-hmm.
It's something I was thinking about while watching this. Like, I don't think his parents are bad or wrong, but I think that it's potentially factoring into why he, I don't know, like it's like if you imagine your parents saying, "Oh yeah, your significant other's sweet. Yeah, she's nice. She's sweet."
Yeah.
Like that's probably not as reassuring as if they were like, "Oh yes, we love her." Like
Mm-hmm.
notice what she's bringing.
Right. Yeah. It, yeah. It was just like, an entrepreneur meeting of the minds. And that's what they all, like, that's their biggest priority. And like, that's what they value in life. And so it's kind of like, rather than saying, this is how I view life, and someone else could view life differently in terms like of
Mhm.
valuing art and valuing whatever matters most to them. But in their mind, it's just like, if you're not thinking about things the way we are, then what are you doing? Are you really even using Roxanne's word? Are you even ambitious? What are you doing? So it was interesting, to say the least. Um, Even seeing Alex interacting with Roxanne, he's like, you could easily walk over someone. And he's like, that wouldn't happen with me. But I could see you being able to easily walk over someone, which he's like
Yeah.
properly clocked, because that's how I feel like her relationship with Antonio is,
Mhm.
where she's able to do whatever she wants. She's able to live her life. And he's the one that's like, oh, let me make sure I'm doing the right thing. So I don't know. I feel like I don't it's even though they're on the same page, I don't feel like we're not going to see like, oh my gosh, they're going to end up together.
It's a little too samey with them.
Yeah.
Um
They could be
I
business partners.
yeah, friends, coworkers. I did laugh out loud at Alex's dad's joke where Roxanne says that she brought a cat into the house and he said Alex brought a cat.
I looked at my brother and I said, he did?
I know.
And he
I was
was
like,
like,
took me a
no,
second.
his girlfriend's name is Kat. I was like, you're right. That is a name on this show.
How long has his dad been waiting to use that joke? Has he used that joke before? It's funny.
Yeah, he had that in his pocket. But yeah. Oh, another thing I was gonna say about Roxanne before we move on is I was so annoyed at her putting her 2 cents in Brian and Lisa's situation at the club and at the choice. Like, she felt like she was the one who had to give an opinion. And I was just like, girl, chill. Like, why are we going so deep into the relationship? They're not here. Like, take Nick's news. I know we're on a show, but just take Nick's news and move on. We don't need all the additional commentary. But she's just a very opinionated person, which we see.
Yes.
So the next couple, who's the next couple we want to talk about?
Let's see. Let's talk about Antonio and Kat then, since we're just do the flop,
The other side of this couple,
the flip side of this couple,
Yeah.
The other half of the pair.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. And so on the picnic date, he said, Antonio was like, "Yeah, it's really interesting because I feel like Alex has all the things that I'm lacking, and I feel like Roxanne has all the things that you're lacking." I was like, "What? Why would I get it to do it about your, like, to make that claim about yourself because that's how he feels, but it's like to put that on Kat, like, what if she doesn't think she's lacking those things?"
Yeah. There's like way too much Kat hate in this show.
Kat
is out here just being sweet and doing nothing, and everyone's like,
He's basically like, "You're not Roxanne. Like, you don't match up to Roxanne. I don't match up to Alex. So it's really a tough spot we're both in."
But these two, Antonio is going to sleep on an air mattress because he wouldn't want Roxanne sleeping in the same bed as someone else. Now, I can't remember. Is Roxanne sleeping in the same bed?
Yeah, I think Antonio's the only one on the air mattress.
Okay. I feel like James might also be not sleeping in the bed, but I'm not. That one I'm unclear on.
We just never saw. Is James even sleeping?
He may not even be in that house at night. We don't know.
Yeah.
He may just be going on a lot of runs.
Mm-hmm.
So they were the couple that we see nothing except for the sleeping on the air mattress, and then flash to it's week 2.
Yeah.
Like, what?
I know.
Antonio says that he hasn't been very romantic in a lot of his relationships and he doesn't know why, but then he admits that he might just be selfish. He hasn't ever been financially stable, so he can't afford to buy things for fancy dates. Now Antonio is 30. Why is he not financially stable? Where is that money going? What is he doing? Does he have a lot of student loans or debt or what? I don't know.
Roxanne's words are just that he's never had a goal, which I can't imagine that to be true. Like, no one, just never in your life, one goal.
I don't know. Some people just be sitting at home playing video games. So
She did say he's a type that can be perfectly content in his man cave playing video games all day.
Yeah. And like I said before, he opens up about the years of wanting to just be high or have sex just to feel something, and that he was lying to himself and hiding from the world, which I did feel like kind of gave us some insight into him.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kat says she's trying to figure out who she really is and what she wants.
These are just two friends trying to find their way. There's nothing there.
Two people having a conversation.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Friends is a stretch.
It's like they didn't even talk about, like, it feels like they're not even entertaining. Like, they're not even giving the so like what about us in a marriage? What would that be like? Or like, oh, so what kind of qualities do we like? No, none of that. It's just two people talking.
Two people whose significant others are dating each other, and they're just there to confide in each other. Like, it's not even, they're not even yeah, like you said, it's not on the table. And I don't even know if, like, are they just gonna finish this and just be like, all right, well, this was really fun, it was really nice, like, getting to know you, quote unquote. I don't know. There's just there's no romance. There's nothing even close. Like, I guess if we had there was even more. So if we think of the Ultimatum Queer Love, if we think of like Tiff and Sam, there was way more there, and they weren't even romantically involved. At least they were having fun.
Yeah, and at least sort of like entertaining the premise of the show.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, Kat and Antonio, they seem fine. They're living together, whatever, but they're just not giving us any intrigue. And maybe this is just a case of the way that they had the couples this season, they were the leftover two who
Mm-hmm.
didn't really have a match with anyone else. I don't know.
Yeah. Which I could make a case for any of these to be the leftover couple. So
Fair. Very
yeah.
fair.
So the third trial marriage we have is between Trey and Ryan. And for some reason, we could only get bedtime scenes from them with them about to go to bed. Nothing else occurred during the day until their boat date. Like it was just them wrapping up the day and with her dog Blanche and just talking to each other and how much what they like about each other.
Yep. Oh, wait, like no dates, no meeting the family. I've got to assume that episode 5 we meet some more of the family or friends.
Yeah, we have to.
Right before bed, James says that he needs to go on a run, calls his friend, says he's finally realizing how possible it is to lose Ryan. Now that
Wait,
he's
no,
turned.
Trey and Ryan.
Oh, Trey and Ryan, my bad. Swap back up to them. That's what I was thinking about. Trey and Ryan. Trey, yeah. You know what? I take that back. There was a short
There was the
scene of them
boat
eating
date.
ice cream as well. Although I guess that was in the evening.
Yeah, just like it was it felt like we went from point A to point Z when we're just getting these teensy bedtime scenes and then we get to the boat date and he's like, "Look, I just have to put it out on the table. I have developed feelings for you." It's just like, where? Why haven't we seen that? Why haven't we seen that progression? It's just like, and I'm sure it's not out of nowhere. They've obviously been spending time together. We just don't have the video evidence.
And like unlike Kat and Antonio, with them we do feel like they are having a lot of conversations about the things that they want in life and the things that they want in marriage. They seem to have a lot of similarities when it comes to how they want to raise kids, um, like how they want to live their lives, how they want to divide up work around the house, like that kind of thing.
Hmm.
He says that living with her has been 10 to 20 times better than living with any other person that he has in the past. Um, he tells her that um, people think that being sweet is a flaw, but he doesn't see it that way, and he doesn't take it for granted that she's comfortable with her emotions and feelings around him. I said before that I think Trey and Raya are the two that appear to be actively looking for new couples, like
Hmm.
a new significant other, and Trey's shooting a shot here.
I think I could totally see him and Ryan together. I could see it happening. If you take away Ryan's 7-year relationship and the potential of that, like that's a big thing to walk away from. But I do think that if Trey could step it up romantically, because we do see a comparison between Trey and James and how they
Mhm.
handle romance and dates and things like that. I think if he could step it up romantically with Ryan, she could potentially think like, okay, I have a choice here.
It's really hard because I feel like James is going to come to the conclusion that he wants to be with Ryan on the show.
Mhm.
Is that what's best for Ryan in the long run? I don't know, because it doesn't really feel like there's that much wrong with James and Ryan's relationship. Like, they're so young. Like, it just seems like he's just a little unsure because he's 23. Like,
Mhm.
so Trey's a little bit older. He has a little bit more together. He's turning it on right now. But what we've also heard from at least Raya's perspective is that Trey eh, drops the ball when it comes to romance, that he's
Right.
very good up front, but then fizzles out over the years. Is that something that, Ryan would experience? It's very easy to, in a couple weeks, be, showing your best self.
Mhm.
What does that look like down the road? But yeah, he tells her that he has developed some feelings for her, and that she's already made an impact on his life in this experience, and that he thinks he could make her happy. She doesn't really say anything back that we see.
No, it's definitely not reciprocated. It's more so like she still just thinks he's a sweet guy. but I don't think she's at the level that he's at where she could say I've developed feelings as well. And I do think that I mean, like, and I said it earlier, she is way more lively with him. She is way more, she shows her personality more with him. Whereas I think it's because it's reciprocated. He makes jokes. He is bubbly. Whereas James is like this 24/7. And it's like James is just not that exciting in terms of his personality. So maybe Ryan, she's just matching whoever she's with. It could be that she is, younger. It could be like she's mirroring mirroring the energy that she's getting. Where with James, she's not getting that much energy, to say it plainly. So I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see where they land and if Ryan goes back to James and is like misses any part of her experience with Trey. I think that would be the only indicator that like there was potentially more there, is if she gets back with James and is thinking about Trey. But I don't think enough ground can be covered within this trial marriage for her to be like, okay, I'm leaving James for Trey.
Yeah. And also, like, she's clearly giving him something to where he feels like he wants to, put himself out there. But
I mean, you see the difference though between
right.
Raya and Ryan.
Right.
Ryan just like, she is like she's going to give off what you're giving. Raya, she is going to ask the direct questions, and she's not taking, oh, I don't know, as an answer. So I feel like Raya challenges him and pushes back consistently, whereas Ryan is just like, she just, whatever he says, like, it's cool. Yeah, that's nice. She's not, it's just two different energies that Ryan and Raya are giving off.
I feel like Trey needs someone who is why do I feel like this is all the people? All these people need someone who's all about them, like who's
Yeah.
appreciating who they are and what they're giving, and instead, and potentially, especially with the younger couples, they're with people that they liked initially for some reason, but aren't necessarily compatible with, and so that's why they're running into this roadblock at this point.
Yeah. So last but not least, we have James and Raya.
Yes, who I accidentally started talking about before.
Yeah.
The names, I was on the wrong section of my notes. Yeah, so this is another this is the scenario where I feel like with them we also only see nighttime scenes with them pretty much.
Maybe it's because of work, because we also did
True.
get with Roxanne and Alex that they were like, oh, working has been great because we're just on the same, we're always in meetings at the same time. So maybe that's just the only time they can fit in filming.
Yeah, that's definitely possible. So they I don't know if this is the first night. It's either the first night or very close to the beginning.
I
James
think it
says
was the first night.
yeah, he ends up calling his friend, and that's, like I said, he realizes how possible it actually is to lose her. Now that he's heard another guy talk about how great she was, which, like, there's multiple ways of reading into this. I think one way is, oh, really? You need to be jealous that you think that you could lose your girl to a different guy before you realize her value? Or is it really just is it just the fact that he's now literally in a house with someone else, unable to talk to Ryan and knowing that she's in a house with a different person? Like that's it's a pretty big impact.
I think he just never thought he could lose her. And this was the first time ever in their 7-year relationship that he felt like their relationship was being challenged, where it was out of his control.
Because he says that he cheated on her at one point. Did he not think he was going to lose her then?
No, because they stayed together.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, I thought it was funny that he preferred to go for a night run than to get in bed with her. So I think
I don't know if he actually went on the night run or if he just said he was going to do that so he could go outside and make the phone call.
Right. They did play like a sex game.
Yeah.
Um,
It's sort of
and
like Never Have I Ever, but, like, not really. They was just asking each other
right.
questions.
And I think the main outcome of this was that she learned the lack of intimacy that she prefers in her current relationship, and him expressing the
Mhm.
different ways that it could be done. And she's just like, whoa, okay. I didn't like with foreplay. He's like, that could start at the beginning of the day with all these little gestures, like builds
Mhm.
up the entire day. She's like, yeah, I don't have that in my relationship. And that could be also her like learning and growing and understanding what she wants in a relationship, because if she communicate like her communicating, you don't do these things to Trey is not the same as, hey, I really need more of this in our relationship for it to work. I really need this to feel wanted. I really need this to feel like you're pursuing me. That's way different framing than just calling out all the wrongs, because there's no way for him to fix it. He's like, okay, well, this is wrong. Then what could I do? And she doesn't know what he could do, because she didn't even realize that the examples that James was giving here were options. So I thought this was helpful a little bit in her understanding what's lacking in her relationship, but she just has to learn how to communicate that to Trey.
And I don't know. A little bit of me was wondering, like, was she saying these things? Because some of them did seem a little bit like jokes when she like acted like she had never heard the word foreplay before. Like,
Just
was
because
a
she's like, it's just non-existent in her relationship.
okay. Because I thought
Yeah.
it was a little more like, oh, really? You're gonna show me? You're gonna like that
Oh.
was,
Uh-huh.
but yeah, I do feel like James has clearly taken the position of I want to help you see that there are other people out there who can give you these things. Now it's not going to be me, but
Right.
I want to show it to you so that you can know that it's out there.
Right.
Um, he, I think, I think Raya was the one who said that she wasn't sure if she actually wanted kids or not, and she knows that that's pretty important to Trey. James is also going to say that having kids is extremely important to him. That's possibly he's more excited for that than even marriage. So I think that's going to be another thing that probably makes them not the most compatible couple, realistically. Um,
Hmm.
and
Yeah, I
then
think of anyone in this cast that she would have actually had I don't even know good, but a like a a chance at would have been Brian.
yeah, yeah, I agree.
There
Yeah,
was
really,
mutual attraction there, and
really
yeah.
dropped the ball on that one
Hmm.
with the plot twist.
Yeah.
um, And then James is so they're going to have this sort of argument discussion where he's talking about
Well,
affection, how they're oh sorry, go
before
ahead.
that, they did do a really sweet pool date, which I think she was
Yes,
like, okay, this is possible. Like, you
right.
can plan something very simple, doesn't require all this money. Listen up, Antonio. And you can do something very simple, put these rose petals, have a pool date. And he's like, look, this is just something sweet I did for you. And she really appreciated that, because that's the kind of stuff she's looking for. So I was at least glad that she was able to see, like, I guess make it more tangible, because she's just thinking these like an elaborate date. It's like this kind of thing is possible. And even watching back, maybe Trey, if they end up together, Trey is like, oh, this is something
Mhm.
that's simple that could mean something to her. But yes, they do have this somewhat argument.
Yeah, so he is trying to explain to her kind of like we were talking about earlier about the types of how foreplay can be just, breakfast in bed, complimenting someone throughout the day, etc. That gets them to a point where they're feeling in touch with you by the time you actually get to like the sexual part. Um it- so he's discussing different types of affection, and she says that she wants physical touch. She doesn't feel like they're really in a marriage, and when they barely hold hands or hug, and he's like, oh, I hugged you the other day, and he's like trying to explain to her that like he does feel like holding hands is a thing that he likes to do, but when you're driving or when you're walking on the street, she's like, well, you didn't do that when we were driving the other day. And he's saying like, well, there are other ways that you can be affectionate. You can have, I mean, basically they're having a conversation about love languages. Essentially, they're just not
Literally. And
saying it.
and
Like,
they won't put a name to it, because I mean, and I don't want to keep saying this because it's like it's not that 23 and 24 are just so young that you don't know what you're doing or anything. But there's a lot that I learned in my early 20s. Just thinking like if I'm putting myself in their shoes at that age where I'm like, these are things I had to learn through different like relationships to understand like what was important to me, how important love languages are, and how that can show up in different ways in your relationship. And so
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that could have very easily turned into like, this is what your love language is and that's why this is how you receive it. What are you good at giving? Clearly James is good at giving like acts of service or quality time. And we do see Trey is great with acts of service. He even washed Ryan's car without her asking and she really
Yeah.
appreciated that. So it's like, if they were able to just simplify it in that way rather than making it this like huge thing, like he doesn't do this, he doesn't do this, he doesn't do this. If Trey knew physical touch is her primary love language, that's how she knows that you love her and you want her and that you are pursuing her and that she doesn't have to have any doubt, then he can learn ways to better express that. And I think for her to try to get that out of James right now is just unnecessary. Like, you're with him for another week. Like, this is pointless. You can't all of a sudden have these husband expectations from him and y'all are about to separate. It just felt she was kind of projecting. I feel like these are things she needs from Trey. And she's like, I'm not even getting them from James. Like, what is happening?
Yeah. And since so much of it really did seem to come down to like physical touch that seems like James is uncomfortable doing, especially if he's battling the feelings that he really wants to get back together with Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's just not going to be a bridge that they're probably going to be able to cross.
Yeah.
He
And it
says,
does.
and that's when he brings up the cheating thing and says like that he
Yeah.
cheated on her once and it was the worst experience of his life and he doesn't want to cross that line again.
And in response, Raya basically said, and let's get back to this marriage. She did not even
Yeah.
care or entertain the thought or talk him through it. She just was like, that has nothing to do with this marriage. It's just like she was super dismissive of him bringing it up when he probably felt like he was being very vulnerable bringing up that point. But it was just like, oh no, she is focused on the right here and right now. And I just think like, girl, it really is like I was saying, the lack of options. I feel like y'all just ended up together because there weren't many options. You had one
Mm-hmm.
option with Brian gone, so it's just like just get through it. I'm at least glad that James is trying to at least like now that he has this new outlook on him and Ryan's relationship that he's like, okay, I'm trying to be respectful. Whether it's that he's just not into Raya or not, at least he's thinking about how, okay, now I all of a sudden see Ryan's value. Let's see how I can get back to her and make things better. So I think the second trial marriage for all of these couples would be the most telling because
I
none of
think
these
so.
are just like, oh, none of these are Ray and what's his name? Ray and with the pretty eyes.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Ray and her trial
Jay.
marriage.
No, whatever his
No,
name
because
was.
she was with Zay.
Zay, yeah. Jake. Wasn't it Jake?
Jake. Yes,
Yeah.
Ray and Jake. None of these couples give me Ray and Jake.
Yeah. Or Lexi and Mal. We thought they
Yeah,
were
or
gonna be a
Lexi
thing.
or Yoli and
Oh, right. Yoli and
yeah.
Xander. Yeah, that was the
Yes.
real one.
None of them are them.
Yeah,
It's
certainly
just
not at this point.
it I think maybe I wouldn't be as hard on this season if it came on the heels of season 1. Like maybe I would say, okay,
Right.
maybe it's not as great as season 1, but to come on the heels of the Ultimatum Queer Love, that's tough. That's big shoes to fill, and they're a size 5 trying to fit in a
It's
size 10.
it's like this show was Roxanne wearing her heels. And then once we actually started watching, it was Roxanne taking off her heels. She
Like,
catfished
oh,
us with her height.
yeah.
And this show catfished us with the shoes it was trying to fit.
Yeah. So very interested to see, what unfolds in episodes 5 and 8. So anything else from these 4 episodes that you wanted to point out?
I I love love. I'm hoping for the best for all of the couples, including Brian and Lisa. I think um, no matter which couples end up together, that they should all go to couples therapy regardless. I know that we were told by Tiff that at least that they did do some of that, just not filmed. But that should just be a thing that you probably, maybe go talk to someone about. Like, why did you feel like you needed to go through this
Yeah, that
process?
is the big question.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, we will be back to talk about episodes 5 through 8, and then we will be back with another pod to talk about episodes 9 through 10. So thank y'all so much for joining us. Mary, what are you up to these days? Where can people find you?
I've been doing the Big Brother 25 thing, which of course you can find over at RHAP's podcast in their Big Brother feed. And other than that, I have been taking it easy, been relaxing, been enjoying the last little bits of summer we've got here before we move into the fall. And it's been nice. It's been nice to, like, I know we all wanted Big Brother over the summer, but it's been nice to have a little bit of time. But now things are, it's the shows are popping off again. So got to get back
Yeah.
to it. What about you, Aysha? How many 800 podcasts are you working on?
Right. No, I'm on a break as well. Because normally I'm constantly having Married at First Sight, but we've been done with Married at First Sight since July. And then we had a couple of postseason interviews, one with Jasmine, one with Nicole from season 16. So those are great. Those are out there on the Rob Has a Podcast YouTube channel, and also wherever you get your podcasts. And so yeah, me and Jason are just waiting for season 17 to be announced. It hasn't been announced yet, which is the longest break we've gotten since I started covering Married at First Sight on Rob Has a Podcast for season 12. So we've usually only had about a month break. So this is very interesting. Not sure what Lifetime is up to. But yeah, outside of that, also doing Big Brother 25 coverage. And then we have Love is Blind After the Altar season 4 is dropping on September, or no, not September. Love is Blind season 5 is dropping September 22nd. But Love is Blind season 4 After the Altar is dropping this coming Friday. So we will be here covering that as well. So just if you subscribe to the Love at First Sight feed, you don't even have to question. You can get all of these because I've got so many questions. People, are y'all going to cover the ultimatum? Are y'all going to cover the ultimatum? Yes, we're here. You see that. And then just if you subscribe, that's the first place that you'll get that podcast. So please go subscribe to our Love at First Sight feed, and that's where you can get all of these podcasts: Ultimatum and Love is Blind and Married at First Sight. Get that all in one spot. So yeah, robhasawebsite.com/first sight feed, or just Love at First Sight wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you leave us a 5-star rating and review too, to let us know that you are enjoying this, so we know that you want more of this content and that you are enjoying this. Because what if no one's watching the ultimatum and we're just out here covering it and no one's listening? We don't know. So definitely
We know
the
our brothers at least are watching. So,
right.
so we got that.
This podcast is being held up by our brothers, so we appreciate that very much. But y'all, thank y'all so much for sticking with us. Oh yeah, follow me everywhere at Aysha like Aysha, Aysha like ASIA. But yes, we will be back with our coverage of episodes 5 through 8, so stay tuned for that. But until then, we will see y'all next time. Bye.